Hi everyone and welcome back as I continue my review of selected episodes of Blake 7 Season 2 Killer. Avon and Villa teleport down to a Federation base. They are on a mission to retrieve, or steal, should we say, a Federation Pulse Code Crystal. And the base commander is very well known to Avon. For Avon is calling in an old debt, not surprisingly, coming from Avon. And Avon and Villa do effect entry into the base, and they come face to face with the base commander. Meanwhile, back on the Liberator, Blake is intrigued by a signal that's being picked up. He doesn't understand it, and then he puts it on the monitor, a close-up of it, and it turns out to be a very old spacecraft. A mystery that Blake is rather intrigued by. He identifies it as a Wanderer-class spaceship, and it's 700 years old, and there's just no way it could be that far out into space. Absolutely no chance whatsoever. Meanwhile, Callie senses something. She senses life, then she says human life, then she says she doesn't know, but she does sense something. And she basically puts it across as whatever this is a threat. Meanwhile, back down on the base, Avon puts it to the base commander, Tynus, the man who was associate of Avon years ago, and they had a spot of bother. He's there for a reason. He wants the Federation Pulse Code. Tynus says, no, 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 and stalls Avon. Blake sends down some information about the Wanderer-class spaceship that's given to Tynus, who then is passed on to Dr. Belfry. But Tynus, in the meantime, has betrayed Avon by ordering a signal being sent to Servalan that he will stall Avon as best as he can for the Federation to turn up. In the scientific department of this base, the virologist, Dr. Belfry, has looked at Blake's signal and is rather bemused by it. And Blake is so intrigued by this. It's a Wanderer-class spaceship. What's it doing so far out into space? He gets a bit more information from Aurak, the actual identity of this particular ship, and he decides to teleport down himself to the scientific section of this base. And he's picked up by Belfry's assistant and escorted to Dr. Belfry's room. And Blake basically just communicates it was me who sent the signal. And while this is going on, Avon is doing a recce in the room where the crystal is. It's not a very pleasant room to be in. And he's scouting out, and he's noticed he has a bit of a problem in trying to retrieve this crystal. So, after all this has been completed, obviously the scientific department has retrieved this Wanderer-class ship and discovered a body which is being examined by another doctor. It seems dead, but for a 700-year-old body, it looks very strange. Then suddenly there is brain activity in this body. The body gets up, it throttles the doctor that's examining it. Belfry's assistant, Gamble, bursts into the room with two others who are watching all this, but it's too late. This body has killed this doctor, and then it just falls to the floor. A mystery. Meanwhile, Avon after the recce, is trying to work out the safest way of recovering the crystal without electrocuting himself, resulting in permanent death, which he would rather do without. And he puts his plan to Tynus, and Tynus says this and that. And then eventually Tynus does turn around and say there could be a way of retrieving it, a small fire, because it's an oxygen-rich atmosphere. And so, reluctantly, Tynus helps Avon to enter the room where the crystal is kept again, so he can carry out what he wants to do. Meanwhile, Dr. Belfry is given the news by Gamble. There is an epidemic breakout on the base, spreading fast. After Avon and Villa do their little skullduggery, Villa doing a little cleverness, Ash on a second piece of paper because he notices something, and he shows Avon the piece of paper, and it's a message to Servalan. Avon now knows he's been betrayed. Meanwhile, back with Belfry, Blake is talking to him, and they're talking about an area space that hasn't been charted for various reasons. Blake believes there is an intelligent life there, and it wants nothing to do with humans at all. Meanwhile, back with Avon and Villa, Avon is trying to work out a few things here and there in his head, and they overhear a report to Tynus. There is an epidemic on the base, and it's spreading fast. This gives Avon an idea on how to slightly modify his plan, and of course Avon puts that plan into effect. Meanwhile, back on the Liberator, Blake has now obviously teleported back up, and with the help of Aurak, is trying to assemble the pieces of the puzzle together, particularly about the virus, and they do make headway on the virus front, and of course they alert Dr. Belfry. While this is all going on, Avon decides, let's go ahead, let's just steal the crystal, and that's exactly what he does. But of course, behind them is Tynus. Tynus now plays his card in the terms he's going to betray Avon because he wants to save his own neck, and he plans to kill Avon, but there's a bit of a fight, and the upshot is Tynus meets his demise. He's not the only one who meets his demise. The epidemic is spreading like wildfire now, and base personnel are fleeing and dropping dead. But for Avon and Villa, they've now got the pulse crystal, and it's time to get on out. And they teleport back up to the Liberator. Avon and Blake have a little argument. Avon is suggesting, let the virus run its course. Let Servalan be killed by it when she turns up. But Blake sees the bigger picture, and what happens if it spreads off-world? No, it's got to stop here. Which, there is this disagreement, obviously, between Avon and Blake, but they decide to, drop the whole argument and just get out there. They got what they wanted, the crystal. So Blake basically puts out a transmission warning about the plague on the planet. Dr. Belfry has cracked the code of the virus, but unfortunately he only passes some of the information on to Blake, as he soon becomes a victim of the virus outbreak. And so basically that is where the episode ends. Blake has warned everybody with beacons around the planet, And so, my final thoughts. Right, well, let's get the funny bit out of the way with first, shall we? Oh, those firemen, their uniforms, and the boarding party went on the Wanderer class ship. Looked suspiciously like Michelin men. Apart from the funny side to it, there was another thing I thought was a bit weird, a bit more serious point, you could say. Why is it Blake suggests cut the airflow off in the base to slow down the virus, to slow down its spread? You would have thought Gamble and Belfry would have known this. It's like they were becoming reliant on Blake. Very, very strange that, but I don't know what to make of that. I do like the Avon and Tylus thing. Obviously, something happened between them in the past, and Avon helped Tylus, and now obviously he wants to call in his chips on that, and of course Tylus wants to cover it all up again by trying to get rid of Avon. Yeah, very good, very good. And I noticed the story was written by, is it Robert Holmes? Now I'm going to presume this is the same Robert Holmes who worked on the Tom Baker era, and he's obviously well known for like the gothic horror stories of the Tom Baker era, because it definitely comes across like that. It definitely comes across like that. Yep, very good episode. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think on that note, everyone, I will see you in due course on the next one. Have a great day. Goodbye.